What's going on, Geeks and Geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown to the Geeks, and this is going to be our instant reaction to The Fall Guy, starring Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, Aaron Taylor Johnson. With me, one and only, David. What's going on, sir?
What's up, guys?
This was something that I have been looking forward to because we were at the red carpet world premiere at South by Southwest. I didn't go watch the movie because I had plans to attend another red carpet event directly afterwards. But the response to The Fall Guy was overwhelmingly positive. And my initial thought to hearing sort of the buzz was like, really? It kind of just appeared as sort of your average action, not blockbuster, but sort of just average action film. But I didn't see a lot of trailers for it. I don't like to see too many trailers or too many scenes or clips or anything like that. But you and I just got out of it along with Retro Ray. Um, and I already know right off the bat the buzz and the talks and the rumors were true. This is a flat out entertaining film from start to finish. Your instant reactions, Dave.
I thought it was really, really good. Pleasantly surprised. I didn't think there was a single part of this film where I was like, okay, come on, let's. They shouldn't have done that. They maybe should have pulled 15 minutes away from this film. No, I think it was perfectly paced, perfectly directed for what it is. Um, it knew what it was, and I think David Leitch, the director, and Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, the rest of the actors there were awesome. They all executed their roles to perfection for what this movie is. So
Yeah, I like that already sort of the characters are interesting, like right off the bat. First act, it's such a refreshing movie. I don't want to give away too much, so I'm going to try and be very careful. Like the opening act, the intro, just the intro to the movie sets the tone beautifully. And like you mentioned, it knows what it is. The tone is right there from start to finish. Yes, it's an action movie, but then it also morphs into this like caper, this action adventure film, if you will. It has a little bit of a thriller or suspense type movie component to it. Slightly noirish, not too much because it still leans into the comedy, which is like dry throughout. It is dry humor, and that is my favorite. It's not so much like slapstick or anything like that. It really leans into the dry humor throughout. I don't know how they filmed this with the straight face that they had on the entire time. They must have just been cracking up left and right. I know the pros, but the jokes hit, man. The jokes hit so well. And Ryan shines in this very sort of quirky, charming comedy action role where he's meant to be very witty, very sarcastic at times, and it works so well for him. People thought like, "Oh, we're just gonna see Ken again," and like, no, Ken's very bland. Ken is almost like dim-witted at times, very naive as a character, but Gosling in this role, he's so witty. I don't know that I've seen him have such a great comedic role. I mean, his comedic timing in this film is just like it's perfect. It's perfection throughout. He really likes it. Not surprised me, but he really shined in this specific role.
I agree. The chemistry between Blunt and Gosling was way better than what I
Fantastic.
was anticipating. It doesn't look when you look at them on the surface. Maybe it has something to do with maybe the Barbenheimer phenomenon that happened, but they just don't kind of go together when you see them on the surface. But when you see this film, I don't know what it is, but they work together, and I was happy about that. That was one of the big pleasant surprises I think for me. And along with the story, it's a very very when you maybe study it, analyze it, it's a very cliched concept, but somehow they pull it off to where it's fresh. It's fresh enough to where it's not overdone the way we've seen it in the past, but it just has that nice little tint of freshness on it where it's going to be enjoyable. And the thing that you said about the comedy, the laughs weren't forced in the audience that we're in. We were in a packed house. It wasn't forced. It was all natural. They didn't have to really work too hard to pull a laugh out of us. There was funny things here and there, and there was kind of like deep cut funny stuff that I was laughing at, and then you were laughing at, and then humor that I don't find particularly funny, but you did, and then vice versa. I mean, it worked on so many levels that this is really kind of a home run for the studio, David Leitch, Gosling, and Blunt. I think this is going to do really well.
I have a couple of thoughts in mind. Number one, it sort of reminds me of one of my favorites. It's not like a top 10, but it's one of my favorites. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Robert Downey Jr., Val Kilmer. It starts off it's a movie where the plot is very unsuspecting. It just comes out of nowhere and it turns into this caper. Is really what it feels like. And this movie does something very similar. It's just a simple concept about a stuntman, his his relationship with a girl he likes. It seems very either innocent or simplistic to start out, and then the onion skin, the layers start to get pulled back, and it turns into something you did not expect. But it's so clever in that, and again, I'm not going to give away any major spoilers here. It's so clever, the their concept of what they wanted to execute. It's people making a movie while we're watching a movie. It's a movie and a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And while
Very
that
meta,
can
a lot of meta
seem
aspects.
and while that can seem um not while that can seem very simplistic in nature,
Right,
the
right.
way that they execute it, the way that sometimes the scenes are filming are interwoven into the plot of the film. We're watching stunts being done by a stuntman, but the plot of the movie is what's driving him to complete these actions. It is so damn creative. It's so well written and executed in that aspect. Like, um, it is a very it could be it could fall flat if you
Yes.
don't execute this concept right or well, and yet they're able to build this caper within a movie while making a movie, and they keep the tone of it grounded throughout. We've been reviewing a lot of movies in 2024 because it feels like the film industry's fully back and that they've reached their stride. And there's been a couple of movies that I've talked about that have tried to implement this very sort of dry, witty tone um, in the scenery or in inside of an action film.
Mm-hmm.
Argyle was one of them. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare was another one. And those films didn't stick the landing all the way. They're not bad movies, but this is what they were aiming for. They were aiming for a grounded film that could still be set in this sort of action thriller, and it's hard to do that. It really is, because you have to walk a fine line. And if you get too silly, then it falls. It doesn't work. If the action is too over the top, if it starts to become unbelievable, or if it starts to get absurd at times with the action sequences, then it also doesn't work. This film is able to stay grounded in the comedic moments. There's some scenes where they do they do take some risks, but they're able to keep it grounded by explaining, what's happening to this character, that character. You'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. And then the action sequences, nothing is over the top.
Right.
Everything is a grounded, well executed stunt, done by a stunt performer. And while that may seem boring in a sort of generic action film, the way they do it here makes it so entertaining. It wouldn't be We wouldn't have a second thought if this was another action film and they were completing these stunts. But the fact that it's a stunt guy who's become a part of this bigger plot,
Mhm.
it just makes it so much more interesting. And
Directed by a stunt
now,
guy.
yeah, and now, the audience is along for the ride. And so, bravo to David Leitch, to the writers. It's so well done. I had a blast from start to finish. Oh, and also they also incorporate this like incredible 70s 80s rock track score um throughout the movie. They actually played I Was Meant for Loving You by Kiss, which just so happens to be my favorite Kiss song out of theirs. So you could just never go wrong. Like, great.
Yeah, a true love letter to stunt men and women from all the decades that Hollywood has existed. And David Leitch, he was a stuntman for Brad Pitt and Fight Club. He did that iconic scene from The Bourne Identity where you see him jumping from window to window and you just see his back. That was David Leitch. And of course, he's been a proven director for a while. He did Deadpool 2. And the execution, yeah, it's about as good a movie as you could expect for this genre. But Ted, I ask you, what was the genre this movie is? I think it's maybe a hybrid of a lot of different genres.
Yeah, like I mentioned, it definitely action noir thriller.
I
But
think you got to throw rom com in there too, a little bit.
I think you could.
Maybe a little dash, a little sprinkle.
Oh, I don't know what hit me all of a sudden, but yeah. No, yeah, it blends so many genres so well. It's an action
Hmm.
comedy, but the noir component, main keeps it grounded. That keeps it so interesting, and they really pulled it off. This is no easy feat that they've accomplished. Like, this is challenging to stick the landing of, and they stuck it like 100%.
Yep.
I think we can get into our Geekcast rating for you watching at home. That is a 1 to 5 scale. One being worst movie I've ever seen, 5 being absolute perfection. And while I'm trying not to sneeze again, Dave, let's get your Geekcast rating. What do you got, sir?
I want to give it, if we're going up to five, I want to give it maybe like a 4.4. Because I really don't see anything really wrong with it. Like I said, the pacing was great, acting was great. Uh, Emma Waddingham played a really good role in this. She was fantastic. I love her in Ted Lasso, and in Game of Thrones. And I'm surprised that it says here on Google that Teresa Palmer was Iggy Star. I didn't recognize her at all. She didn't look like herself. I don't know what the deal. I know she wore like a lot of like makeup and like diamonds and glitter on her face and stuff, but I didn't recognize her at all. And yeah, I had no idea that Aaron Taylor Johnson was going to be in it. I didn't know that Stephanie, I believe. How do you pronounce her last name, Ted? Do you know? It's HSU. Is it Sue?
I guess so. Stephanie Sue.
Yeah, she was in Everything Everywhere All at Once. She was nominated for an Oscar, and Winston Duke as well. He played a pretty good role as well, but he's good in just about everything. He was great in Us. Um, so yeah, 4.4. That's what I give it. I don't see anything. I really thought once it was over, I was like, man, I need to take my wife to come see this. I think she's gonna really enjoy it and have a lot of fun with it.
I'm actually going to be very close to you. My score is a 4.5.
No.
Honestly, it's not even a knock on the film. Just I think they executed everything that you wanted, expected. if there was I don't know, a more emotionally engagement component to this movie for me, then I probably would have given it a 5. But 4.5 is the closest I'll go for just about any movie. And so, yeah, this was just entertaining from start to finish. Great chemistry between our leads. Uh, I probably could have used more of Winston Duke. I feel like he didn't get too much to do, but that's okay because the parts that we did get of him were pretty good. And Aaron Taylor Johnson was pretty fantastic in this
Yeah,
role. Yeah,
I agree with that.
and I really like this. I really like the noir aspect of it. Sort of unraveling this mystery. There's a bit of a mystery factor to all of this, and it doesn't make a lot of sense early on, but then it all gets, we all figure out what's happening by the end, and like most movies. But um, yeah, just wow, what a great time! Honestly, it really was. And yeah, if you want to see some of the highlights of the world premiere of The Fall Guy, which we attended, you can check those videos out on our social media pages or our YouTube channel. There's a great stunt performance before the actors entered on the red carpet, and so there was motorcycle stunts, folks doing backflips and things, and then Ryan and Emily came out on the back of that famous 4x4 pickup truck that he's driving throughout this movie. So they rolled up in that with their stunt jackets on, and it was probably the most epic entrance next to Cheech and Chong, who rolled up with like a 50-foot joint in the back of their El Camino, whatever they pulled up in. All right, that'll do it. We want to hear from you guys. Once you check out the Fall Guide, let us know what you thought about it. Give us your own rating, why don't you? And also, hopefully you were one of the lucky winners who attended this advanced screening with us. If you were not and you would like to, go on over to our website at www.countdowncitygeeks.com to see what movies we are giving away advanced screening passes to. We currently just released passes for the movie If, featuring Ryan Reynolds, which also has Emily Blunt, I think, voicing one character in that one as well. Perhaps. That's directed by John Krasinski. Also stars Steve Carell. It's a great cast, and we have, I think, close to a dozen cities across the U.S. that we're giving out passes for. So, if you want a chance to take your family to go see the movie, If, go on over to our website, register for those passes, and if you win, do arrive at least a couple of 2 hours early, I would say, because all these movies are first come first serve, and seating is limited. And that'll do it for us for the Countdown to the Geeks. My name is Ted, aka Steady, and joining me on the Fall Guy movie instant reaction is one and only David.
Two thumbs up, guys.
Have a great night.